So this one was kind of a Halloween special, I guess you could say, even though it's still kind of early October. Uh, Certainly in that sense, nothing like as good as the one that we got in season one, Summerween. But probably the more logical comparison to make this episode with is Bottomless Pit from the first season, because it's the three-story format again. Not quite sure what to think of Bottomless Pit, really. I mean, I like the individual stories they had as just a bit of entertainment and everything. But the overarching story they had for them, kind of lame, really. And it always kind of bugged me that I don't think those stories are canon. So it's not, developing their characters, or it's not world building or anything like that, So it's kind of just, like a fun little waste of time kind of episode. I still like it, but, it's kind of sort of less worthwhile. And I think this one probably suffers from a similar problem in that I don't think these stories are supposed to be canon. And therefore, it's not as good, as interesting, if in terms of, enjoying the whole series, really. It's just a little sort of, it's very much filler. The character development isn't canon, so, you don't really know what to sort of make of it or anything. But with that said, I did like the individual stories we got here. Actually, sorry, I should talk about the overarching story first, which has a kind of Tales from the Crypt kind of feel to it with, Stan not so much addressing the audience, but this, anonymous visitor who we are seeing everything from his point of view, basically. So it's like he's addressing the camera or addressing the audience, but actually he's talking to this anonymous guy and everything. It's kind of like playing one of those video games where, you just have to make decisions or something, I don't know. But yeah, that was a much more interesting kind of overarching story, I thought. Stan's obviously just very entertaining to watch. The way he tries to sort of con people into selling things and everything. So that was much more enjoyable, I thought, than Bottomless Pit's overarching story. The individual stories now. Hands off. I have seen these kinds of witch put a curse on you kind of stories done a lot before. And, the thing with Gravity Falls is they always put a little bit more of a twist on it. And they kind of do that here because, the witch, she's just kind of lonely, or, she wants a date and everything. She's not actually sort of wicked or evil or anything. Other than that, though, there wasn't much any kind of sort of new kind of twist or anything. I mean, Stan losing his hands, I suppose, is kind of an interesting kind of twist. One thing that actually kind of annoyed me was the moment when Stan wakes up the following morning and you're wondering, what has she done to him? What kind of curse has it been? And then, the big shock moment would have been when he held up his hands and, they weren't there. But they called the story Hands Off, so that kind of gave the game away. So, that annoyed me a little bit. I thought there would be more hand-related jokes, really, to be honest. Obviously you've got the cave with all the hands in, and they're all doing, the rock, paper, scissors, like, thing. That was pretty funny. I thought there would be hand-related puns or anything. I mean, there's Stan's line, I've got a gesture I want to give to you, or something. A little bit risky for a kid's show. But other than that, there weren't many sort of hand-related jokes or anything. It was just sort of, the hands doing hand things, thumbs up, high fives, whatever. How do they float in mid-air like that, those hands? But no, there weren't quite as many good jokes as I thought there were going to be. It was more sort of just about helping out the witch because, she's just a little bit lonely and she's not quite sure what to do with life. She just has this cave full of disembodied hands, it seems, for no particular reason. And actually there was quite a lot of sort of self-awareness or lampshade hanging in this one, actually. You've got Stan's line, well, I learned nothing. And there's a few other lines like that later on in the episode. But yeah, Hands Off, not quite as much fun as I thought it was going to be, actually. I thought there would be more sort of hand jokes and everything. And yeah, Stan wasn't quite as interesting, or as, kind of acting like a jerk, but also kind of lovable at the same time. It wasn't so much of that for me. So Hands Off, kind of dispensable, I thought. Remember the name of the middle one. Excuse me a second. Baconing. I actually thought this one was a lot better. Some actual sort of interesting development of Waddles and maybe the kind of relationship he has with Mabel and the kind of relationship he has with Dipper, perhaps. And this is also, kind of a very sort of done kind of plot in kid shows of a character wishing they were more intelligent and then actually fighting the means to make themselves into a genius. And then obviously just finding that, it doesn't make them any happier. It's not who they are. If you like, being clever doesn't make you any happier. But here it's more just a case of Mabel's actually sort of kind of telling Waddles that she still wants him as a friend, and with him being a genius, he isn't her friend, maybe. But obviously, it's still left to sort of Waddle's decision at the end that he still wants to be friends with Mabel rather than trying to discover the mysteries of the universe or anything. I actually kind of, at the same time, would have been a little bit more interested if maybe at the end, maybe Dipper had been tempted to use that sort of mushroom thing. I forget its name. And Waddles had maybe tried to talk him out of it. That could have been kind of interesting if maybe having seen what Waddles was able to achieve with that, maybe Dipper was then tempted to use it himself, because obviously that was his intention originally. So it would have been interesting if Dipper had been left without Thor, but no matter. But still very interesting to see sort of what Waddles does with this intelligence. He doesn't really sort of want to do very sort of pig-like things. He doesn't really want to use it for his own means or anything. He actually sort of wants to help people, and he wants to make the world a better place, almost. So that's kind of interesting. It's kind of showing that Waddles is kind of quite a likable character, actually, when he has the means to express himself beyond just acting like a pig. So that's rather interesting, I thought. And it's actually very obvious that this story is not canon, because Stan says at the beginning that he's made it up. And yet the journal and the invisible ink is in it and everything. I'm not quite sure. I'd have to go back to first episode this season. Does Stan know about all that stuff in the journal? I mean, we know he knows about the secrets of Gravity Falls. Does he know about the journal? Yes, we know he knows about the journal. What am I talking about? Does he know about the invisible ink in the journal, though? That's I would have to go back to the first episode and check on that. And yeah, just some rather interesting development of Waddles and his relationship with Mabel. But again, it's not canon, so I don't know what to make of that, really. And Clay Day was just really fun, visually speaking. Again, a lot of sort of self-aware sort of remarks there with Stan saying, "It's slowly swiping at us, let's escape by standing here." It's kind of sort of making fun of the old sort of monster films and everything. I think the skeletons must be a reference to Jason and the Argonauts, that really impressive stop-motion effect they had in that movie, which still looks good today, really. I'm not quite sure if the Cyclops is referenced or anything like that. I was kind of thinking, there might be a reference to like Wallace and Gromit or something like that in there, with it being clay animation. But clay animation combined with hand-drawn animation, that is really clever. I don't think I've ever seen that before. And it doesn't sort of look, you don't see the joins or anything. It looks really good. It looks like the clay people are really just there in the hand-drawn animated world. That is really fascinating to look at. And, probably, again, this is sort of the writers sort of making fun of themselves again by, just explaining why hand-drawn animation is, what most cartoon animated shows are, because, stop motion, it just takes a lot longer and it's more expensive. And, they kind of make fun of that by not showing that fight scene at the end. The clay animation that we get in here looks really good and everything. It's just a lot of fun to look at. And it's kind of weird. I actually don't remember much about the story. Mabel has this fear of clay animation, so they take her in the laundry basket over to this guy's house to show that it's completely harmless and everything. And it turns out it actually is real. It's alive. Mabel was actually kind of right to be scared of it almost. I wonder if Mabel realised it was alive. Maybe that she knew that there was logic behind her fear, perhaps. I'm not sure if they ever actually saved Mabel. I assume she didn't, otherwise she would have told them. And then at the end, Stan perhaps going a little overboard with capturing this guy who he's been telling the stories to and putting him on display. I'm not sure. Has he chained this guy to the wall or something? Is this guy just very scared or very afraid that he doesn't sort of try to escape or try to say anything to try and escape or anything? I mean, maybe he's mute or something. Maybe he doesn't have the power of speech or something, because, of course, we never hear him talk. So, yeah, he does write "help me" on the window at the end rather than just simply saying it. So, yeah, maybe he's just mute. Maybe he just can't move around very much in that compartment. Yeah, that's, again, kind of, Stan being kind of dickish, but also kind of lovable at the same time. That was kind of funny. And then the tic-tac-toe thing, or noughts and crosses, as they call it in this country. Very funny at the end, where the guy with using crosses is about to win, and then Mabel asks if she can be crosses. Some people could see that as just Mabel being a bit naive and a bit dim-witted. But I see it as Mabel actually being very tactically clever and realising that if she asks to be X's here, she'll win. Good tactics from Mabel. I'm not sure it would be particularly fair, but yeah, I can see Mabel's logic there. So that was pretty funny. Sauron's eye, I forgot to mention, we see at the very beginning. That was I think it's the glass ball thing that we see in Return of the King rather than his actual eye. That's kind of an interesting kind of reference. I don't know. Are we supposed to think that maybe that's going to come back at some point? I doubt they're going to make a story about Lord of the Rings or anything. I think that was just a little Easter egg thing. But it's still cool to see it and everything. Awakening was by far the best one, I thought. Because it was just some really interesting kind of development of Waddles and what Dipper and Mabel think of Waddles. The other two are basically just sort of jokes. Clay Day is just really good visually. Hands Off, I feel like it could have done more really. And it just kind of bugs me with both this and Bottomless Pit that I think we have to assume that the stories aren't canon, and it just annoys me a little bit in that sense. Why can't these stories be canon really? They fit with the show's theme. So yeah, that annoys me a little bit. But it is fun to just see 3 stories in a single episode. That's kind of fun. The overarching story is a lot better than it was in Bottomless Pit as well, I thought. If this is meant to be a Halloween special, though, it didn't really freak me out or scare me as much as I think Summerween did. That's a shame. That little display thing we see at the very beginning that Stan shows the guy and he says, "Oh, I'm not a fan." That was kind of freaky. But other than that, no, there was nothing particularly scary here. Yeah, it was enjoyable enough and very obviously a filler episode. But as a filler episode and as a 3-story episode, very good and a lot of fun and perhaps not quite as many laughs as I was hoping for. And some interesting development of Waddles, even though it isn't really canon. So yeah, that's that, guys. I'll see you in, I think, 3 weeks. We have to wait now for the next episode. So I'll see you then. Bye-bye.